We're here with Scott Williams today, guitarist from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, going through his guitar picks. Bebop Alula, Gene Vincent, and the Blue Caps, Cliff Gallup, lead guitarist.
Cliff Gallup was a big influence on Brian Setzer and Dave Edmunds and some of the so-called rockabilly revivalists of the 70s and 80s. And I only really discovered him about the time the Stray Cats were on the scene in the early 80s. I could go back and listen and I think, man, that dude sounds cool. And I mean, he was a country guitar player, pretty much. He was into some jazz things. He was into Les Paul, which, I mean, for the better part of the last 60 years, show me a guitar player in this world that has not been influenced, in this country anyway, that has not been influenced by Les Paul, for that matter, Chet Atkins or Merle Travis. You know. Cliff Gallup was one of those guys. I mean, his sound, his tone in the studio was amazing. His style, he used a flat pick, but then on his, I call it my driving finger, I guess it's the middle finger, and then his ring finger, he had finger picks. Mm-hmm. So he could get a little more bite when he hit the strings with those picks. And he used a lot of jazzy chords, and then his solos, he would use the can opener a lot. That sort of thing. And then on Bebop Alula, he's up here just, it's a real basic solo, but to me it's another one of those that just sounds timeless to me. Now, I got my first guitar, I guess, when I was 14, 15, something like that. And, I just got a little cheap acoustic, which is, I guess, how most guys end up starting. So with that, all I wanted to do really, I was singing in church, and I just wanted to learn how to play, just a few chords on the acoustic, and just strum and accompany myself while singing. I guess a couple years later, I got me a little old cheap electric guitar and a little amp. So that's when I started wanting to do things like Mystery Train and Rebel Rouser. That one stands out. Mm-hmm. I always remember when I was growing up, I guess it must have been like on Friday nights, since we couldn't stay up late during the week, obviously. But it seemed like every now and then B.B. King was on. Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, I could hear other guitar players and it wouldn't come out at me like that. Mm-hmm. But, if BB was on the Tonight Show, we'd be watching that. Well, here's a guy that not only looks different, he sounds different. And he sounds good, And he did. I mean, he had just tremendous tone and command of what he was doing.
So at 5 years old, you're watching the tube, and it's like,
At 12 midnight, and you're probably thinking, what in the world is a 5-year-old doing up at midnight? even on a weekend, Let's see if I can pull one out of here. Been so long, I play in a country group now, Let's see. Hey, everybody, let's have some fun. Only live once, and when you're dead, you're done. So let the good times roll. Let the good times roll. I don't care if you're young or old. Get it together and let the good times roll. I'm just stop mumbling, talking trash. You're gonna have some fun, you gotta go out and spend some cash. Let the good times roll. Let the good times roll. I don't care if you're young or old. Get it together, let the good times roll.
We're here with Scott Williams today, guitarist from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, going through his guitar picks. Walk, Don't Run, The Ventures.
Oh yeah, the surf music. I only started getting into it probably about 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to find a tape of theirs. I'd heard for years the name The Ventures, but I don't guess I'd ever really heard that song. But then I bought that tape, and I thought, man, that is cool. And that got me listening to surf music, which Duane Eddy was what I consider pre-surf music. Mm-hmm. And surf music kind of come from Duane Eddy if he'd have been hanging out on the beach instead of in Arizona. That's the way I look at it. He was in the desert. If he'd have been out on the beach, he'd have been more like the Ventures. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they had this thing going. Yeah. Try it again. The hand vibrato thing sound real springy and everything.
They actually kept a lot of their songs short.
Usually about 2 minutes long, I guess. 2.5 at the most.
I'm sure that'd wear you out if you played that fast.
Yeah, well, that's like, I'd hate to be a drummer and have to play Wipeout for an extended length of time. But, I love doing that kind of stuff. Let's see, I don't get a chance to do that on stage nearly enough. Things like that, and Pipeline, I always loved Pipeline. And I used to occasionally throw in a little bit of Hawaii 5-0, that sort of thing. And then from there it gets hard, so.
Look up, Dano.
That's it.
Tell us about your current gig if you take a minute to do that.
Absolutely, glad to. The name of our band is the Silvertones, and we play each and every Wednesday and Saturday night at the American Legion Post 55 on Miller Street in Winston.
We're here with Scott Williams today, guitarist from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, going through his guitar picks. Honky Tonk, Bill Doggett, Billy Butler, lead guitarist.
That was recorded in 1956, if I remember correctly. It's just one of those neat organ shuffle things. I say organ shuffle, but I mean the guitar is very prominent. Mm-hmm. It's got one of the most amazing solos. The guy had a very fast right hand. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it starts off pretty much he's in the key of F, but I'm going to do an E because I'm lazy that way. But it's just a cool shuffle going on, and then everybody else comes in, got the organ going behind it. And then there's like a saxophone break, and it's actually, all I've got of that is a 45. I wish I had it on CD, because on the 45 you've got part 1 on one side, and then you got to flip it over to the other side. I'd like to get the whole thing in its entirety, because it's just such a cool tune.
Yeah.
It's a great tune.